If you're watching this video, I probably do not need to remind you that the Georgia Bulldogs are 0-3 against Alabama in the SEC Championship. So my question to you, our Georgia beat writer Chip Towers, can they get a win this Saturday?
Yeah, big question, right? I mean, it's a huge question, and it really is amazing when you think about that. That's the one box that hasn't been checked by Georgia. And it's kind of interesting as we've gone through the week and talked to Coach Smart, talked to a bunch of players this week. Coach Smart is kind of like not making a big deal about it in public. But several of the players told us, oh, yeah, Coach Smart told us that we've never beaten Alabama in this game.
They're aware of that record.
They are quite aware of this record. And listen, Kirby is probably, I don't know if he gets enough credit for his ability as a motivator. He's always going to find something to have an edge about. So, they'll have an edge about that. Now, can they do it? I don't know. All the pressure's on Georgia. Look, the new college football rankings came out. Alabama's still sitting there at 8. There's no pressure on them. There's no pressure on them whatsoever. They're going to play fast and loose. They got a pretty good quarterback last time I checked, a guy who's hard to tackle. Georgia struggled with that a little bit. I mean, all the pressure is in Georgia's court. But as we've seen the last couple of years, they've withstood that and come through. They're just going to have to do it one more time.
If you're Georgia, what are the biggest things the Bulldogs need to do to come away with the win? And let's start with the guy who's a little hard to bring down, quarterback Jaylen Milroe.
Yeah, well, in big games like this always come down to quarterback play. So, Jaylen Milroe is going to be a huge part of that. As you saw in the Auburn game, he's a guy who in any moment can take a game over. And you're always dealing with the problems that he presents, the run-pass conflict, hard to bring to the ground.
He's pulling Lamar Jackson comparisons from Kirby Smart.
Amazing.
He normally doesn't get into that. So that's some praise from Smart.
And the question started on Tim Tebow, so
Right.
So he's getting compared to two Heisman Trophy winners. That's going to be a big part of the game. But listen, I tell you, and really for Georgia, they have to take care of the football. It's kind of gone under the radar. I believe their turnover margin is a flat 0, but it was like the Tech game last week. It's just, turnovers happen, and they happen in the course of trying to make plays. But man, they can really hurt you. And things like that are just extremely magnified in the SEC championship environment. When the crowds are 50-50, everybody's fired up, everybody knows the stakes. Got to take care of that football.
Can Georgia run on this stout Alabama defensive line?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the one thing that's really kind of blossomed for Georgia this season. Do you remember early in the year? Even against South Carolina and some non-conference opponents, Georgia seemed to be struggling running the football, the power football that we're used to seeing. That's not as much of an issue here late in the year. Listen, Missouri, that's as tough as you'll see, and Georgia had to fight for their yards, but they still ran the football with authority against Missouri. That's gotten better with each passing week, and Georgia Tech, I feel like they could have run for all they wanted to against. They probably should have run a few more times, to be quite frank about it. That's an area that I believe is a little vulnerable in Alabama's side. It's not. Their rush defense is strong, and their pass defense is decent. But I believe that Georgia playing at a high level, and a lot of that's going to depend on who's available and who's going to be able to play. Looks like most everybody is going to be available to play in this game. A couple of guys we're not 100% sure about.
Well, let's run through those. All
right. Ladd McConkey, I don't know. And I think that's a big deal. Brock Bowers, I feel very confident. Kirby said he probably could have gone last week.
Especially considering it's soreness.
Yeah, soreness you're talking about. Tate Ratledge was walking around like there was nothing wrong with him, So, when you start getting all those guys together, maybe not Ra Thomas, but the combination to me of Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey is what makes all the difference in the world on Georgia's offense. The conflict of those two, especially on third down, is almost unstoppable. So I don't know where they're at with that. Kirby's obviously playing very close to the vest this week. I don't think we're going to know. And it doesn't look like we're going to get Jamon Dumas-Johnson back based on everything that we've heard, which is like this much, barely anything.
Pretty much nothing.
Doesn't look, when he's talking, if he was talking day to day, I think there'd be some hope. But he's week to week.
So you got 2 freshman linebackers who are going to get a lot of playing time. Smile Menden's leadership is going to be huge.
Yeah, they're going to be huge. And Smile, by the way, is a little banged up, as we understand. Listen, C.J. Allen's doing an incredible job coming in as a true freshman at the Mike linebacker position. You really can't ask for a greater challenge just to do that, period. Then you throw in a run-pass conflict of a quarterback that you have in Jaylen Milroe. They're asking a lot of C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. Those guys are going to have to play really, really well.
One other thing, Chip. Georgia defensive backs coach Fran Brown is headed to Syracuse. What are your thoughts on that? And could that affect this week at all for Georgia?
You know, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think anybody really knows, though this isn't the first time it's happened. You know, Dan Lanning's hire was somewhere around this same time. I'm not 100% sure. But, you know, we asked Javon Bullard and Tyke Smith this week. They you know, practiced their Bloody Tuesday practice, you know, right after learning this news. And they said he, you know, showed up at the practice field with the same juice all the time. They're clearly happy for him. Look, it's a big deal. I mean, he's a 40-year-old coach, and he gets a head coaching job at an ACC football school. I mean, that's a big deal. And, you know, how it affects Georgia this week, I don't think it's going to be too much of a distraction because you're putting the game plan in. You're just busy doing what you do. It's, you know, down the road where you really kind of wonder. You know, he's a great recruiter. The good news for Georgia is operationally, you know, in terms of being a position coach, he kind of concentrated on the cornerbacks while Will Muschamp handles the safeties. So I don't think it's like where you're just going to be at a coaching shortage in terms of strategy and that kind of thing. But it's on the recruiting trail, quite frankly, is where you're going to miss this guy. And he's not going to be able to do that for you anyway. Even if he stays through the playoffs, he's going to be recruiting for Syracuse. So, you know, it's definitely a development, and it's just another thing that Georgia's going to have to absorb.
Okay, last up, I want to get your X factor in this game that could make the difference. I'm going to go first. If he plays, if he's healthy, which it sounds like he will be, tight end Brock Bowers. There have been so many times this season when all else fails, you can give the ball to Brock and let him do his thing. It's a little bit of a safety net almost for Georgia. Not many guys can take on Brock Bowers and come away victorious. What about you?
Well, no wonder you went first. Brock Bowers.
I know, I stole the good one. I stole the one that was right there.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you, special teams are huge, especially in dome stadiums, in SEC championship games. I can tell you all kinds of stories about Tyrann Mathieu and fake field goals and everything else. And listen, I think this is a strength that's kind of gone under the radar for Georgia. Peyton Woodring has come through in flying colors after that really shaky start to the season. Mekhi Muse is a home run threat anytime, any place. Brett Thorson, you know, the Aussie, you know, what a great job he's doing. I give Georgia an edge in the special teams battle, and that could be what decides it.
We'll see if Georgia can finally get a win against Alabama in the SEC championship. Thanks to all of you for watching. Make sure you go to ajc.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos just like this one.